Welcome back to Norrath. Today we're in the plains of Kirana. I've done just a very tiny bit of farming out here, so we're going to take a look at that, and then we're going to take a look at the city of Qeynos, which I know is what you're all here for, because I have done quite a lot of work. We finished most of the exteriors of the buildings of the city, so we're going to take a look at those. So, without any prevarication, let's go ahead and get right into it. As you can see here, I've, of course, planted all of the farm fields in Kirana. They have been marked out with the path blocks for quite a long time, but one of the things that wasn't done was all the farm planting, because this can be quite tedious. Even though I have used tools to do this, I did not do a single planting block here by hand. This was all done with MC Edit, actually, as is a lot of the heavy lifting. But it still took a couple of days even with that, because I had to brush all the fields individually, change them to intermediate materials, so I could have all the planting done. You'll notice in good Roman style, the irrigation and everything is done in just nice, neat lines like this. They're done this way for the green fields, and for the wheat fields they're done in a different way. I wanted to have them face different directions to give us a bit of contrast between the two farm types. I think about 2/3 of the fields in Kirana are planted with wheat, and the rest of it is planted with this combination, as you can see here, of potatoes, carrots, and beetroots. Because I wanted to have the green fields have just a little bit of variation in them, because, you know, wheat fields tend to not have that. Just a little texturing in the farms. And of course, Kirana is, of course, the main breadbasket of Norrath, you could say. It's the most fertile and productive region. A lot of foodstuffs are exported here. It's really the power base of the Qeynosian Empire. And they'll trade food for all sorts of other finished goods. They'll trade for ores that come out of the High Pass Mountains, the Serpent Spine Mountains over there, and various other finished goods all around Norrath. Kirana wheat is very widely exported. Traded for things like elven wine and all that sort of good thing. But let's just do a bit of a flyover here so you can get a good sense of just how expansive the farm fields are out here. I really tried to make them quite large. They pretty much fill the entirety of the Kirana River Valley, except for the area over there. You know, we've got the Split Paw Knolls over there. And you can see their area that they control of Kirana is still wild lands, pretty much, because that's just how knolls are. Something about all of this development behind me here, quote unquote, ruining the lands. That's what they keep telling me. I mean, I don't think, I mean, they're not doing anything with that land over there. But they think that if you develop the land, you quote unquote ruin it, apparently. Knolls are very feral and naturalistic in that respect, I suppose. I did have to spend a good amount of time cleaning up all the edges here, though, if we want to land here. And maybe walk around the pathways. I know I can spend a lot of time flying around on things, but I know I need to make a bit of an effort to land and take a look at things from like ground level view, as most of the time we do see in Norrath here. But if we want to go along one of the roads, you can see one of the motifs I like to do along the roads is to line them with hedges, just like so. But not too tall, because I want to be able to see all the farm fields and everything. I chose to irrigate things in 4-block increments. I know water irrigation will reach farther than that if I put water on the other side there. But I wanted to make sure all the fields were going to be perfectly irrigated, so I chose a spacing of 4 for those. And oh, I forgot to show you over there. I updated this area over here to add a Roman fort. Actually, if you remember from the Roman fort tutorial, let's just go over here in that direction. By the wizard spires. So if we teleported in, of course, that's why this is here, by the way. Now this can be, you know, we don't want to have an army teleporting in or anything, so we have, of course, the Roman fort tutorial. buildings spaced right here. And some of the Roman watchtower you can see as well. I've upgraded the gatehouse with some larger towers for those. Then, of course, we have some barracks buildings. A little piece of a stable. Over there, the Greek hoplite statue over here. And, of course, the tall deluxe Roman watchtower here, just integrated into the fort itself. It's just kind of clipped into the wall back here. Just like so. There are a number of other forts that I put in here. I thought that because Kirana is very important to the Qeynosian Empire, you would have to have forts put down at key locations. We have another one up here, as you can see. It's a smaller design, a bit more simplified. To house the garrison up here. We have, of course, the Blackbarrow knolls up to the north. So we want to have a fort here along the river, where that comes down from the northern Serpent Spine Mountains and everything. So we would want to use that fort to secure our northern flank. And of course we have the central fort here, the big fort, to protect the interior. And then we have another fort way over there, which we're not going to get to. It's just a copy of the northern fort, really, to secure South Kirana from the knolls and all the other hill giants and everything down there around Lake Wraith. Oh, I also updated, we're about to get to Qeynos, but I also updated the detailing for the Qeynosian aqueduct that you will notice very prominently cuts all the way through Kirana, just like so. I went back and changed out some of the bedrock to, well, I changed out all the bedrock to be cobbled deep slate and tough and hits of diorite here and there to sort of update the detailing on this to be a bit more contemporary with how I build these today. I didn't make all that many changes. This is probably worth going back and updating that tutorial, because that was one of my very early tutorials, which, you know, they can be a bit better today than they are several years ago. I think that's probably like 3 years ago, maybe 4. I don't know. It's quite a few. Might be worth doing that. But let's go back here to the main road that cuts all the way across Kirana. I added a bit of detailing. I just hit this with a random brush here to take the pattern and just working out a bit of tough here and there. But let's go ahead and get to the meat and potatoes of the episode, which is, of course, taking a look at the city of Qeynos. All the buildings and everything I've added there. We're just kind of slowly walk there instead of just quickly flying. I want to get you to have the full effect, because I have done a lot of upgrading on this. You can immediately see that I've upgraded the gate with, you know, like an actual big set of copper gates. I suppose they would be bronze, actually, but, you know, we don't have bronze in Minecraft, but bronze is mostly copper anyway. It's like 90% copper or something like that. So we're just going to go with that. Of course, we can see we've got a larger hoplite now standing on top of the large Roman archway. And of course, these towers and everything you might recognize from the Roman Hippodrome tutorial. That's where those are taken from. And we can also see behind that we have a number of other buildings rising off in the mist. Of course, we've got some good old-fashioned Roman skyscrapers there. Very tall insula, as it were. Now Roman insula wouldn't have gotten quite that tall, but they would have gotten probably, you know, around that tall. They actually had to start making a law about those, that the emperors kept reducing the height that the insulas could be built at, because they had a habit of collapsing and killing everybody inside, which is, you know, not good. Not what you want for your buildings in Rome, so they kept having to reduce those. Because, you know, unscrupulous landlords like Crassus and everybody else kept, you know, pushing the limits, trying to cram as many people inside to collect as much rent as possible. Not unlike today, actually. That is not new. That's yet another thing the Romans invented. Now, one of the other detailings I have done, though, is I wanted to go around and update this old design of Roman wall a bit. I did have bricks worked into this. They do have a bit of red in it. But I changed that to, I think I changed it to tough or basalt. I think it was basalt, actually. But otherwise, they have the old design for the Corinthian entablature and everything. I kind of want to update these walls with some new detailing, like I did for the aqueduct over there as well. But they do have a nice brickwork pattern in them, though. They don't have the same brickwork pattern that we do have here for the towers that I ripped off the Hippodrome, no? I'm thinking about in this little plate here, I don't know if there's enough blocks, but I want to try to write Qeynos in the inscription there too. I think that'd be a nice touch to add. But as we come up on our gate, we can see just how big and impressive this gateway is meant to be. That's why we're just creeping up on it. Of course, we've got some guardian lions and everything, some fire pots for dramatic effect and all that too. Now, if we just work our way up here, we can we have just a very small entrance. Behind that, I've left in the original 3x3 piston doors for effect. Now, but if we go inside, of course, we can see the gateway and the arcades on either side of that. I have upgraded this gateway on the other side of that too. I need to go around. That needs to be done for all these other interior gateways in the city. But if we want to turn and go this way, let's get a little altitude. Go this way, we can see I put in the Tower of Pisa behind here, the straight version, not the leaning one. In here, and we can see several versions of pre-existing structures I've made. Like I think this is the Type 1 or the Type 2 insula. It's the Doric version, and I've just sort of stretched and squished that into making various shapes and sizes of insula inside the city. And of course, over here we can see that if you look closely, you can see all of these are really made out of very small modular parts. Like this building here, it's really made up of just one floor design and one window design. But it's stacked and repeated and squished together in the middle, and then got some acroterium on the top. The same deal here for this building as well. It's got really one window design, but it does have lower down. It does have some Corinthian pilasters. And you can see they're just stacked right on top of each other. Just like so. And this designed building over here, we can see this designed building here shares features with this one, except the windows are a little bit shorter. And there's fewer of them. There's more divisions in that. But on top of that, we do have some arcades of Corinthian on top of that. Generally for buildings, you want to start plain at the bottom. And then as you get higher in altitude, you want to make them just a little bit more ornate as you get up to the top. That's not true with all buildings, but it is true with some buildings. And some buildings are indeed extremely plain. Like this building here, it still needs to have windows gone back and put in it. But we can see here that this is just variations on a theme. This is the Type 3 Insula building that I did a while back. I need to put out, like 7 more types of Insula building. But this is the Type 3 with its various design motifs. But it's just repeated and stacked on top of each other. This building over here is pretty much the same. But it's got different ways that it's stacked together. You can see here, this building has some nice Corinthian pillared porches around it at various intervals. And if I want to get just a little bit more altitude, we can take in a bit more of a grand view of the city. So you can see what I'm talking about. Like if you take those design ideas and patterns and everything, and you stretch them and squish them and cram them together and recombine them, you can make, just from a few patterns, you can make an entire city out of that. And unless you look really closely, you won't see how it's just repeated a whole bunch. Now you can see here we've got the Roman Imperial Eagle just, plopped down on top of this particular skyscraper. I don't think you'd actually want to do that on a building. But we can get away with things like that in Minecraft. You might also notice I've taken some of the roofs, and some of the roofs have the red nether brick that I usually use, but some of them have been substituted with lapis. Right here, worked into the nether brick also. And other buildings, as you can see here, like the Colosseum, they have been done with copper. Like the top of the Tower of Pisa over here, it's been done with an ice copper dome. It's the oxidized copper, the cut copper. But some of the other buildings in the city, the nicer ones, have the more shiny copper domes on top of those. But let's go back over here and just land. You can see in between here, we have all of the Roman road patterns from the Roman road tutorial worked into the streets. Back here, very simple repeating patterns and everything, just to separate the buildings from one another. And you can see, when you're using the repeating patterns, if you will kind of space out the buildings using the roads, you can kind of like build a building, then build a road around it, then build another building off to the side of that. And if you use various types of buildings with varying details, you know, you can use like the Corinthian one here, the Corinthian porch one here, I think this is a version of the Type 3 insula back there, and the Doric insula, and all the other ones. You can make it not immediately apparent, like there's a Doric one back there, from the street level, that everything has just kind of been copied and pasted, but it's not immediately apparent, which can be quite a pleasing effect. I will say, though, that before you comment about some of the lack of detailing, it's because what I've done so far is I put in the main buildings, but all of all of these streets need to be fully detailed. They need to have street lights put in. They need to have custom trees put in, various carts put in, and you know, and all sorts of interesting detailing along the street level here to make them look a little bit less plain. But of course, that is something for a future thing to do here. One of the taller skyscrapers in the city here. It's really satisfying to build Roman skyscrapers, which all I really do is I take various parts of the other insulas and I cram them together and just stack them on top of each other for those. And of course, as you can see here, you want to try and vary the height of your building as well. Sometimes you can't have similar height buildings next to each other, but for the most part, you want to make a pleasing a scattering of varied heights of buildings. You don't want to have just all your tall buildings necessarily next to each other. You can space them out a bit if you want to as well. From that, we do have this little dragon perched on top of a building. You can put, you know, various decorative sculptures and whatnot on top of your buildings too. I like to do that. Let's see, down here we can see one of the recent Roman baths tutorial that's been installed here as well. We can see this is just a stripped down version of the Parthenon. Put in down there. This is, of course, the very old the Roman monument tutorial. I would like to go back and update this at some point with the newer Corinthian detailing, but I've just changed it out to be copper. For the moment, of course, we've got a theater down there. The very recent Roman Basilica Nova has been installed here as well with a nice pleasing lapis roof on that. And of course, down here we have what's going to be upcoming the Roman Bank tutorial. Before this, oh, looks like I chopped off part of the face of the line. I'm going to go back and fix that. But I have crammed that into the back of this very tall skyscraper on the back there. That's not part of the Roman Bank, but I just kind of clipped it into it. You can see one of the things I like doing in the city is I like dividing off the city into districts with like interior walls. Like we have this big gatehouse back here as well, dividing out the colonnade and everything. But we can see, of course, we have just an interior wall dividing everything out. On this skyscraper, we have a bit of the, I think that's the top part of the Roman docks tutorial. I sliced off the top of that and dropped it on top of a building. Or all sorts of good things. I like to take bits and pieces of everything I've done and just recombine those into newer buildings. In that way, we can let our previous work sort of build off of itself. And of course, here we come into the main square of the city. I've updated the theater to have the oxidized copper on top of that. And of course, I've updated the cathedral, as you can see here, to have the shiny copper. For that as well, the entire roof of that cathedral I've converted into that. And of course, all the important buildings in here for the Qeynos Acropolis have been converted into various shades of copper as well, just 2 shades really. The non-oxidized and the fully oxidized. The use can be made of the partially and almost partially oxidized copper, but I really like the contrast between the green and the shiny copper myself. This is, of course, where the palace is up here, which is mostly consists of a bunch of buildings put together. It's really hard to take all of this in. I think this is around the center of the city. So now that we're here, I think we can, let's get some altitude. We can take a lot of it in. There's the gatehouse from Kirana, which we came in at. And of course, we can see here the main road and the colonnaded porticos on either side of that. Of course, you would have a lot of market stalls and everything underneath those. We can see some of the taller skyscrapers from here. And of course, the smaller and more medium and modest height buildings interspaced in between the more featured skyscrapers. Over there, we can just barely see the Colossus over there around the docks. The Roman lighthouse over there. The Qeynos Cathedral. And the other districts of Qeynos as well. It just barely fits in render range, which is pretty much determine the size of the city. I don't really want to build it any more expansive than this. There are going to be some spoilers, though, for upcoming tutorials in this. One of the things you can immediately see here is I've go ahead and installed the Arc de Triomphe inside the city here. So I'll give you a little spoiler of what that's going to look like. It's going to have I chopped off the base for it, but it's going to have a couple of steps down there on the base. And for the top, I'm not going to include this in that tutorial, but as you can see, I've just taken the Roman soldier statue and the equestrian statue and just dumped it down on top of that. Oh, and of course, we can't come to Qeynos and not go inside the cathedral, so we're just going to take a quick trip through here. I think I want to update the flooring to be not so dark. I want to keep the glass, but I want to put down some golden dye right in here because it's entirely too dark. Of course, this is one of my favorite interiors that I've done. Of course, it's basically the Hagia Sophia. I've just pushed up the dome and I pushed out these barrel vaults on either side. Otherwise, it's pretty much the same. And I modified the triforium in here a little bit as well. But we don't. We could easily spend the entire episode in there, but we don't want to do that. We've got a lot of city to see that I want to get to. Go underneath our arch, though. I did try and put the detailing of the coffering and everything in here for that. It's not going to be too long before this comes out, though. Along with the French chateau, got a couple of statues. Random statues around here. I've got, of course, this is the Greek. What do I call it? The Greek Stoa, I think. No, it was the Greek market. Well, anyway, I've just taken that and I've stacked it up several times here. To kind of make a skyscraper out of it. And for this, I'll just kind of fly along the streets here and kind of take in. Kind of do our best to soak in everything. Qeynos is really meant to be like a Roman megapolis, in a sense. So it's kind of one of these cities that's designed to take you and kind of give you a big old classical hug. You could say because you're down here street level, so you know the buildings are kind of closing in on you, in a sense. They put a little fountain here. This is where the museum went in Qeynos, on the back side of the cathedral back here. You will notice, you probably will notice, all of the Roman things that I've been building over the years, they've all been designed to go into this city, pretty much. And indeed, as far as everything I release as a tutorial, it's is designed, first and foremost, really, I make it for myself, because I know at some point I want to put it into Norrath. Like there's the Pegasus statue, the original Roman Triumphal Arch, right there. We got another theater over there. And I'm not going to do a tutorial for every variation on these skyscrapers. I'm going to give you enough to where you can see the patterns. Like there's maybe, I don't know, 7 distinct designs. And the rest of them are, as I said, just variations on a theme. So you ought to be able to take the patterns from those and, you know, if you want to do a similar city is what I'm trying to say. You can take the patterns and just sort of just expand them, really. Here's another spoiler, kind of. This probably isn't going to be a tutorial in itself. This is the top half of the I guess this is the top quarter of the Roman Hippodrome, but beyond that, it's got the back half of the Queen's Mausoleum back here, but it's mirrored on itself with that scalloped entablature design, and then it's stacked on itself, three times to make a very pleasing tower shape. I kind of like how it came out anyway. It was pretty enough to dump into Qeynos. Let's see. I've changed. I put one of these little statues on top of what's going to be the upcoming Emperor's Mausoleum. Is what this is going to be. I don't think this isn't the fully updated model for the Emperor's Mausoleum. I've changed that a little with the sculptures and everything, and some of the detailing. But this is the original model for that. But it's gonna be a bit nicer when I release that as its own tutorial and everything. But before we get away from the city today, I think I've shown you pretty much everything. It's mostly a big mess of buildings. Let's take a quick look at the docks over here. Because I've taken the Roman galley tutorial and added some more ships down in here to the harbor. Our smaller ships and everything. Of course, they're docked at port, so they got their sails rolled up and all that. If you remember, I have like the larger Roman dromon. Well, so it's really a Byzantine dromon. But I wanted to have some smaller Roman ships here as well to just go around and fill out our docks area. So I think that brings you up to date on everything I've been doing here in Qeynos. Of course, there are a whole lot of other locations around Norrath we're going to be taking a look at in future episodes. There's also the entire underground of this city we're going to have to put in at some point. It's not down there yet, but whenever I do, we will of course take a look at that, be coming back to the city here. Do let me know what you think about everything you saw here today. And with that, I would like to thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.